In Sonic Mania, at the end of Mirage Saloon Zone Act 2, you face off against the Heavy Magician, who uses her shape-shifting hat to transform into illusions of 3 obscure Sonic characters, named Bark, Bean, and Fang. For some strange reason, most people seem to have devoted their lives to completely pointless endeavors such as pursuing a career or starting a family, instead of doing something actually important like studying the lore of the Sonic the Hedgehog series. So today I'll take it upon myself to answer the question, who the hell are Bark, Bean, and Fang? Let's start with Fang the Sniper, also known as Knack the Weasel to Western audiences. He's the most well-known of the 3, and he first appeared in the 1994 Game Gear game, Sonic Triple Trouble, named such because it has 3 antagonists, as you can see from this glorious cover art. The game is actually called Sonic and Tails 2 in Japan, a sequel to Sonic and Tails, which was known as Sonic Chaos in the West. So what's Fang's deal? He was characterized as sort of a treasure hunter thief type who's after the Chaos Emeralds for personal profit, and in the game you fight him at the end of the special stages. He was originally intended to have a gun, as shown in this pre-release screenshot from a magazine, but SEGA rejected the idea. Fang's first appearance may not have been too glamorous, debuting as a tertiary villain in a handheld game, but he was a Sonic character nonetheless, and there actually weren't too many of them back then. In 1995, Sonic Drift 2 came out. They wanted to add some more playable characters to the roster, so Knuckles, Metal Sonic, and Fang were added to the game. He pilots his air bike from Triple Trouble, the Marvelous Queen. And things were going pretty well for Fang. At this point he could reasonably be considered the 7th most important Sonic character. I mean, he kinda got cut off of the American version of the box art, but hey, that's okay. This next appearance might not really count, but I'm gonna mention it anyways. In late 1995, a game called Tails Adventures came out. It was an interesting little game, one of only 2 to star Tails, along with Tails Sky Patrol. I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but it's pretty different from your standard Sonic game, and involves using various equipable items, like this remote robot for example. There are also some more abstract items, like a Sonic item which grants you the ability to spin dash, or the Knuckles item which gives you the ability to punch. And there's also a Fang item, which increases your chance of finding a ring after defeating an enemy. In 1996, a game called Sonic the Fighters was released in arcades. It's a Sonic the Hedgehog fighting game, and to this day it's the only traditional fighting game in the series. There is also Sonic Battle for the Game Boy Advance, but it's a bit different as you can tell, taking place in a 3D arena with up to 4 players. Sonic the Fighters was originally released as Sonic Championship in the West, before they eventually said fuck it and just embraced the weird-ass Japanese name for all the future re-releases. The game was developed by SEGA Amusement Machine Research and Development Department No. 2, better known as SEGA AM2. The studio was helmed by Yu Suzuki, perhaps best known as the creator of Shenmue. After creating a number of successful arcade games in the 80s such as Hang On, Space Harrier, Outrun, and Afterburner, which featured impressive sprite-scaling graphics and moving cabinets, Suzuki continued to innovate with games such as Virtua Racing and Virtua Fighter, which played a crucial role in popularizing 3D polygon graphics. During the development of the game Fighting Vipers, an unknown AM2 developer added versions of Sonic and Tails to the game. They weren't totally finished, and they can't be accessed in the final game without hacking the code. But it was enough to get the attention of Yu Suzuki, who presented the idea of a Sonic fighting game to Hiroshi Kataoka. At first they were worried a game where Sonic characters beat each other up wouldn't be approved by Yuji Naka, however he turned out to be quite receptive to the idea. He commented, "I couldn't think of Sonic as a fighting game, and was worried whether he could really fight with his short hands and big head, but Mr. Yu encouraged me." This also happened to be Sonic's first game in 3D. Fuck off Sonic 3D Blast, you don't count. Anyways, it was at Naka's request that the team created some original characters for the game. Why don't we take a look at the roster? The game features 8 playable characters, with Metal Sonic and Robotnik being computer-controlled bosses. Obviously you're gonna have the main 4 of Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy. It also features Espio from the Chaotix, and our boy Fang, who finally gets to use his gun, although it is now a pop gun which shoots corks. Fun fact, this is the only game to feature 8 Chaos Emeralds. I guess when they were making the game they figured, hey, we have 8 fighters, why don't we just have 8 Chaos Emeralds? I mean, fuck it, nobody actually gives a shit about how many emeralds there are, right? And of course the 2 new characters are Bark and Bean, so why don't we take a look at them now. Bean the Dynamite is based off a character from a 1988 beat-em-up game called Dynamite Ducks, developed by AM2. The game stars a blue duck named Bin and a red duck named Pin as they go through various stages punching the shit out of dogs and stuff. They also utilize a variety of weapons, including bombs, which is why some of Bean's attacks utilize bombs as well. Bark the Polar Bear seems to be a totally original character made for the game, probably because the roster needed a big guy to fill it out. There's actually a cut character in Sonic the Fighters that was going to be an explicit reference to fighting vipers, specifically to the character Honey, known as Candy in the West. There was going to be a Honey the Cat in the game. Her unused data was discovered in the game files when someone was hacking the version of the game found in the Sonic Gems collection, and Honey was finally made playable in the 2012 HD port, and would eventually go on to appear in the Archie comics as well, where she was portrayed as a fashion designer, just like her Fighting Vipers counterpart. So that's 3 games featuring Fang, and he was slated to be in the next main series Sonic game, Sonic Extreme. Unfortunately for him, that game would never actually come out, and after Extreme was cancelled and he wasn't included in Sonic Adventure, that was kind of it for Fang, at least as far as the games go. He got a cameo in Shenmue as one of the capsule toys along with the rest of the cast of Sonic the Fighters, which was a nice nod. But after that he pretty much faded into complete obscurity. He wouldn't even be mentioned again until appearing on a Wanted poster in Sonic Generations, which also featured a poster with Bark and Bean. But he wasn't actually seen again until Mania, and even then, if you want to get technical, it isn't technically Fang, it's just an illusion, but hey, I'm not complaining. Anyways, the character did manage to build up a fairly sizable fanbase over the years, and was featured in both the Fleetway and Archie comics, going by the name of Knack obviously. In fact, later on in the Archie comic, he would work together with Bark and Bean in a mercenary group known as Team Hooligan. So what about Bark and Bean? Did they make any appearances outside of the Fighters? Well, they were actually both featured in an AM2 game for the Sega Saturn called Fighters Mega Mix. The game is a crossover between Virtua Fighter 2 and Fighting Vipers, but it also includes some more obscure AM2 characters, like Bean and Bark, as well as some other really weird ones, like the Hornet from Daytona USA, and the fucking palm tree from the AM2 logo. Unlike Sonic the Fighters, this game actually has alternate costumes. Bark's is just a Santa outfit, but Bean's is Bin from Dynamite Ducks, which is pretty cute. Sonic the Fighters is pretty light on story, as you might expect, so I don't really know a whole lot about these characters. But there is actually an official guidebook for Fighters Mega Mix published in Japan which contains short character profiles for these two. Thanks to these we know Bean's hobby is soccer, and Bark's hobby is snowboard. It's interesting that soccer is listed as Bean's hobby because he would actually go on to make an appearance in Virtua Striker 2 as a secret character. The Japanese text was translated by Sonic Retro user, Hitlersaurus Christ, and it contains some surprising information. Despite looking like a duck and being based on a character from a game called Dynamite Ducks, Bean's species is clearly listed as a woodpecker, which does kind of make sense considering some of his attacks. And it also mentions that Bin is Bean's father, which is an interesting tidbit. There's nothing quite as exciting under Bark's profile, other than describing him as blunt and quiet, but has a gentle and loving heart. And apparently he's a shy guy. So yeah, despite their eventual portrayal as antagonists in the comic, there's really nothing to suggest Bark and Bean are bad guys at all. They're just kind of guys. It's true they have a Wanted poster in Generations, however unlike Fang's poster, no crimes are listed. They're merely described as armed and dangerous, which, you know, they are. These Easter eggs were actually written by a user who goes by the name Archangel UK, who worked for SEGA at the time, and he explained that the wanted text was more intended as a double meaning since these characters were wanted back by fans. Okay, so now you know who the hell Fang is, but here's another question. What the hell is he? I mean sure, he's Fang the Sniper, but that's just a name, like Bean the Dynamite. So what kind of animal is he supposed to be? I mean, I know in the West he's called Knack the Weasel, but is he actually a weasel? The Sonic Retro page for him claims he's a half-weasel, half-wolf, although I can't pinpoint the exact origin of this half-wolf claim. It was repeated on the formerly official Sonic Central site way back in the day. However, thanks to a Sonic Retro thread by user Pengy, some new information has recently come to light. Supposedly knowledge of Fang being a half-wolf dates all the way back to 2002 from a now-defunct Japanese fan site called Sonic Dimension. Looking at the Japanese Sonic and Tails 2 Wikipedia page, there's a line about Fang which claims he's a half-wolf and half-something else, but Google Translate seems to have trouble with the second part for some reason. It seems to think it says, a character named Fang the Sniper, which is half of a wolf and a goblin, first appeared. Well, it turns out this word is Tobinazumi, which actually means jerboa. That's right, Fang is not a weasel, he's a half-wolf, half-jerboa, apparently. Now you may be wondering, just what the fuck is a jerboa? Well, it's a little hoppy mouse thing with big ears and a big tail, which do happen to be traits of Fang's. But even though this information is on the Japanese Wikipedia page, I'm still not sure where it actually comes from, since the Japanese manual for Sonic and Tails 2 doesn't mention a species anywhere. If only there was a way to confirm this. Well, someone had a brilliant idea that I never would have thought of in a million years. They just fucking asked the guy who made him. Yes, the character designer for Fang was a dude by the name of Shinichi Higashi, also known as Toma. He's a well-known freelance figure artist and character designer who worked for SEGA between 1994 and 2002, during which time he created the character of Fang the Sniper. So someone just reached out on Twitter and asked him, hey, what kind of animal is Fang? And he replied saying, I designed him with a jerboa motif, but I think he was introduced as a weasel in other countries. So there you have it. Straight from the creator's mouth, Fang is definitely a jerboa. Possibly a half-wolf as well, but I can't find any primary sources which verify this. So as far as I'm concerned, he's a jerboa. So yeah, it was really neat seeing these guys show up again in Mania, and even if it was just a one-time thing and we never see him again, at least they got one last time to shine. Unlike these fucking losers. Get fucked, Ray and Mighty. You couldn't even make it into Mania, you're hopeless.